Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello, welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. Mikey, Stafford and Rory O'Neill with you. We are joined by Eamonn Fitzmaurice. So back on the rather eventful football weekend that was, and we'll have Shane McGrath along later to discuss the hurling. How are you, Eamonn? Are you well?
Good, Mikey. Not a bother.
Good. Rory, yourself?
Fantastic. Yeah, very good. Great weekend's football.
Whoa. Jeez, I knew you spilled my coffee. That wouldn't have been a good start to the day. At least I didn't do a Mac Hansen. I didn't swear. It's fine. I made a mistake without swearing. It's good. Good start. As we might begin with the second tier, Division 2, which is always interesting. We say that regularly. It's got a slightly different dynamic to it this year, I think, Eamonn, because we have two teams in Derry and Dublin who most people think are, if not head and shoulders, and at least, considerably ahead of the pack. And at the moment, they're on top with 8 points each. Cork and Louth and Meath, the closest challengers, with 4 points. But they meet next weekend, and at the moment, I would say there's a considerable gap between the teams, and it might not be the gap people would have thought a couple of years ago. To me, I watched the whole game yesterday against Kildare. To me, Derry looked like a Division 1 team playing in Division 2, and Dublin looked like a Division 2 team hoping to get back up to Division 1. A lot will be told by next week, but at the moment, I don't think they're operating on the same level. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mikey, but if any game is going to get the juices flowing for the Dubs, it's this game up in Derry now next weekend. But Derry have pushed on from last year again. We've all been so impressed with them, I suppose, for the last couple of seasons, and the graph has continued to go up. And a couple of the issues, that was kind of hanging over them from last year, particularly in terms of their forward threat and a bit more support for Shane McGuigan. They look to have worked in that this winter again, and they've improved again, and they're pushing on again. And it's a huge opportunity for them. It can be next weekend, if they were to beat Dublin above in Derry, that's a statement win. And, you can be sure that Rory Gallagher will be definitely driving that angle this week, that it's a great chance to really sock it into Dublin, when Dublin look like they're stuck in gear a bit at the moment and that they haven't really got going. But, like I said at the start, this is a huge opportunity for them as well. So it'll be a great game. Yeah, really looking forward to that one.
Rory, you were in Croke Park on Saturday night for the double header. Dublin now, they've kind of, not terribly convincing against Kildare. They beat a Limerick side who have been whomped by everybody, including your own crowd yesterday. Really destroyed them. They were lucky against Cork, and then it seems to me they were incredibly lucky on Saturday night to have a Clare team who have now shot themselves in both feet in the space of 2 weeks.
6 points up with 10 minutes to go, and Dublin get the last 7 scores to win. And Dublin, I thought a point a piece would have been a probably better and fairer reflection. There was a sort of a loose enough attitude to the Dublin supporters going in, Asher, 'tis only Clare, which I found particularly odd. I had a feeling that this game was absolutely going to be competitive. Clare set up like they always do, made it difficult, and they've got a couple of brilliant forwards. Owen Cleary was outstanding again.
Gavin Cooney's very consistent, isn't he?
Yeah, they're still
scorer.
missing Cathal O'Connor at midfield, who's obviously a big player for them, in terms of ball winning ability and just giving them that direct option from their own kick-up. But from a Dublin perspective, I think it's very peculiar. It's very interesting that the 4 players that he took off, Cian Murphy, Lee Gannon, it was basically the players that have been getting chances.
Lowry,
McGarry, Cian Murphy, McGarry. They were the four that were taken off. And you're kind of saying to yourself, so he's taking off these lads early enough and bringing on the Jack McCaffreys and we'll say some of the more
Scully, Costello,
bringing on some of the frontline players to try and dig them out. That to me would be a major sign that what he's tried to go looking for and what he's trying to find just might not be there. And I wouldn't be at all. I said this last week, and I think the same still applies. And by the way, it'll be a fantastic Dublin team. But when you see the Dublin starting 15, when it comes to the business end, it will be a very familiar looking team. A very, very good side that will take a lot of beating, but not the scary monster that they used to be.
Eamonn, from watching highlights, it's kind of hard to ascertain, but from reading the comments of a few kind of blue tinted columnists and pundits, and also fans online, it's not just the lack of new blood. It seems to be the style of play as well. And people kind of think Dublin are maybe a little bit stuck in the kind of not functional is the wrong word, a very pragmatic and kind of sensible approach of the late Jim Gavin, early Desi Farrell kind of era, where it's kind of play the percentages, keep possession, kind of. And it obviously worked very well for them for quite a long time once they kind of pivoted from the kind of all-action team that they were early in Jim Gavin's kind of reign. But it seems like Gaelic football, as it does regularly, has moved on, and the teams impressing at the moment are kind of the likes of Mayo and Derry, who are kind of all-action, frenetic, kind of playing with a lot of speed. And Dublin don't seem to be that interested to play that way at the moment. Is that by choice, do you think, or is it just something that they're not capable of at the moment?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mikey. And look, I think that's the word, the all-action style. I was actually expecting a bit of a return to that in this league, because I just felt that it was an opportunity for them, as well as trying the new players, to try different elements and to add stuff to their game plan. But it's very much, all more of the same. They're taking a lot of sharp kickouts. They don't seem to be. I didn't see the game against Clare, but certainly against Cork, they weren't as aggressive on the opposition kickout as they normally were. It's pedestrian. It's a lot of, possession-based football, which you said, look, they've won 4 out of 4, so you can't argue with it that much either. It's for Desi Farrell and the lads, it's a results-based business, and they're getting the results, but you just question going forward, going deep into the championship, will they need something different? I, for one, just think that with Con O'Callaghan inside in the full forward line, I can't understand why they aren't more direct at times, why they aren't using him, because
he's the best ball-winning full forward in the country.
The one thing I think is worth mentioning on that front, because I was in, as I said, I was in there and I was watching him. I just spent a good chunk of the game just watching him, and I don't know, since I don't know how serious the injury was that he had, and I don't know, since he has come back, wouldn't go so far as to say is he the same player? Has it debilitated him in some way? He doesn't look to me like he's got the same type of dynamism that he had before the injury. Now, obviously, it's still very, very early. Like, he's only 3 or 4 games in, so it may be the case that he is trying to find a little bit more form or a little bit more match fitness, match sharpness, and that will come in time. They kicked one early ball in, which, in fairness, the Clare defender broke, and then they just stopped. They just stopped after that. And I don't know, was it the case that he didn't really feel like he was going to show? Was it very, very difficult? They had Keane D pretty much sat in front of him, which makes it very difficult. But look, it's not something that he hasn't been used to in the past, whereby he has to shake that sweeper and still make himself available for that dirty 30-70. But I that was a big thing for me on Saturday night, to see, would they try and get it into him a little bit more? And yeah, I don't know. I just like the man has played an awful lot of GAA, where there's hurling or football, and for his club, county, he's a lot done at a very, very young age. And I just think maybe
you're not writing him off now, are you?
No, I wouldn't write him off, but I think a little bit more patience on that front, and you'd hope that he'd get back to his best. But yeah, he's just struggling, I think, a little bit at the minute, just to get up to that match sharpness and match pitch.
And what was the mood like, Rory, among the
It was
12,000
very
people
interesting.
swimming around?
It
Cork?
was. Do you know? I'm glad you asked that, because one thing that actually did strike me from the outset was the size of the crowd. I mean, I know people have mentioned that Parnell Park would be better for these games. It's 2 games spread across maybe Saturday and Sunday. It was a brilliant afternoon, evening. I mean, I took a gang of kids in as well, and they loved it. But it was never more apparent to me about how Dublin really do need their own sort of 20k stadium, like something that can take. Parnell Park is just simply too small. It is like you can't have a situation where people are locked out of league games, and that's what you would do if you ended up moving to Parnell Park. I think it's too small for what they would need. And the hill were gas. Like the hill were like this old man sitting up on a ditch now and not too sure about whether or not we're going to give this team. They were mute. They didn't say a word, right? I never saw the hill. They just were totally silent until the 65th minute, and then they were sort of walking out of their stupor and almost like, Jesus, we could be beaten here. So all of a sudden, the hill took off. It was very, very funny. Like, it didn't actually catch fire really until about 5 minutes to go. But yeah, it was still a very good atmosphere, given obviously just the lower tiers open. But yeah, I think, I know the whole Spawell thing is after falling through because of planning, and
yeah, that's a saga.
Yeah, but like it was never more apparent again, given the game wasn't on TV. It was a reasonably good crowd given the 2 fixtures, and yeah, they need something a little bit in the in-between size, whether that's a municipal stadium, get involved with the council. Shelburne need a new ground, and Bows and all these types of teams, and maybe rugby, I don't know, but yeah, dangerous one.
You're opening a tin of beans on a Monday morning, or they need a football team that can attract 40,000 people to a league match in February again. Yeah. That's the other option. I don't know which is more expensive. Eamonn, it's next Saturday evening, 5:00 in Celtic Park is going to be very interesting. I think I watched this game, as I said yesterday, and Derry were not flattered in the slightest by the 2-15-7 scoreline. The one thing I would say about Derry, who were impressive for front to back, is that their full forward line need to kind of channel their inner Gooch and stop trying to blast the ball to the net and just pass it in, because they drilled a couple straight at Mark Donald. Mark Donald did very well. A couple of the saves were excellent, but a couple of them, he couldn't have got out of the way of them if he tried. They kind of, on one occasion it was Heron, and another it was Loughlin, kind of went for power. But the fact of the matter is they are creating an awful lot of chances, and particularly in Shane McGuigan, who is he's just operating on another plane again from last year. I think they have forwards who can punish teams, and they are so solid at the back and so mean. They just, like we were saying this time last year as well, we just said this team are something else, and incredibly fit, Rory, obviously. But how do you, at the moment, I couldn't put money on Dublin for next Saturday night. I think it would be money thrown away at the moment, and that's an odd thing to say.
No, definitely not. I think in terms of the farm team, it is Derry, and I think they were in a very similar situation this time last year, Mikey, and I think Rory Gallagher will be beating that drum this week, that, it was towards the end of the league that they had a couple of slip-ups up in Hyde Park and Roscommon in particular, and it cost them promotion in the end. And, they've been very vocal with their determination to get into Division 1 this year. That's the next step for them. They won the Ulster Championship last year, which was obviously a massive step in their development. To get into Division 1 now and be playing those Division 1 teams week in, week out is the next step that they want to take. So because of that, and because of the way they're playing, and because of the way Dublin are playing, you'd really fancy Derry next Saturday evening. But having said that, like I said, the Dubs, with the likes of McCarthy, McCaffrey having got game time under their belt, they'll be going up there, and they've been kind of going through the motions so far. But a game like this against a team that they will see as a threat, not only in the league, but as a threat possibly in the championship, Dublin are good in those situations at wanting to put down markers. So I think we learn more about Dublin maybe next weekend than Derry. We kind of know where Derry are at, but we'll see now, can Dublin go up a couple of notches when they're faced with a foe that they might figure could be in their line of fire later on in the season again.
Yeah, Rory, we were kind of saying, Derry probably need to, like Dublin aren't doing it at the moment. They probably need to add a player or two from last year just to kind of, another string to their bow, etc. At fullback, they've this young fella, Owen McAvoy, who is a teenager, as far as I know. He was in school last year. He's playing fullback in a Derry fullback line. He doesn't look like a teenager playing. He doesn't look out of sorts. And he also got up for a point, and it was a fantastic point as well. That Paul Cassidy kind of toyed with the ball on the sideline for as long as he possibly could. And next thing, on the underlap comes this guy McAvoy at pace, takes the ball, runs on, scores his point. They are kind of regenerating ever so slightly, and then they have players who I think are probably better already than they were last year. I think Niall Toner has been spoken of as being one of the most informed kind of wing forwards in the country. So, it's just another way of saying that Rory Gallagher's doing a really, really good job.
They have a good pick. And I mean, if you look at probably, actually, just Mikey, I didn't see this game, but I was just curious. Would Cassidy have the socks up again yesterday?
I believe they may have been up at the start. Anyway,
yeah. Okay, no,
inevitable, Rory.
Yeah, I love the socks up, but they won a couple. They won a minor a couple of years ago. I think they've a very healthy record in the McCrory Cup, which with St. Pat's and Mahara. They seem to have a very good committee in situ, and they're doing an awful lot of really good work underage. I'd also hark back now. The Kieran McFall, I think, was one of their best players in last year's league campaign. Now I know he went to America. There's another body that could obviously make a bit of a difference. But I think right across the board, they have had Derry are in a great place. I think you summed it up perfectly at the start. They're a Division 1 team. They're better than probably 3 or 4 of the teams in Division 1, really, if truth be told. I can't see anything other than Dublin or Derry both getting promoted at this stage. And I think the really interesting angle in Division 2 is you could basically take your look. Limerick are probably gone, but the other team that will probably be relegated, it's anyone of the 5 now at this stage, which is
and which is often the way it is in Division 2. Kildare look poor now, I have to say. Yeah, you do have to balance it against.
What's going on in Kildare? What's going on there?
They looked a bit all at sea, and especially in attack, they were taking silly shots constantly. I think there was a bit of a wind in Newbridge, but in that case, get closer to the goal, play a bit more like Jim Gavin's Dublin. They didn't do any of that. Sticking with Leinster, it's a tale of woe thus far, really. But at least the neighbours, Louth and Meath, played out a clinker, and we need to get your considered opinion, Eamonn, on the controversial Kieran Lennon goal. I'm assuming you saw it, did you? His 70-80 yard run, which finished with either a miscontrol and a hop or a double hop, depending on your point of view. But it wouldn't be a good Louth Meath game.
To me, all right, Mikey. Yeah.
Wouldn't be a good Louth Meath goal without a game without a controversial goal, I suppose.
Yeah, there has to be a bit of controversy and a bit of evening of the books was it this time. But no, I felt that he kind of lost control because of the half a tackle, and then he took the hop. But what a goal it was! The interception, and to be able to keep the foot down the whole way. While the Meath backs were chasing back after him, and then at the end of it all, when his legs must have been like jelly at that stage, to be able to have the composure to take that hop and finish it so brilliantly. But it was a fair sucker punch for Meath, having led for most of the game up to that point. But it was a great goal, and like I said, great composure at the end. I'd have given him the benefit of the doubt anyway, Mikey. But just before we move on from Derry as well, the point about McAvoy at full back, I've been very impressed with him as well. But it's also freed up Rodgers to go to midfield full time. And he's brilliant out there from the point of view of the pace he brings on the ball. He's brilliant at carrying ball and punching holes, and he often kind of makes that initial line break that gets their attack in motion. So I think that's another benefit of having McAvoy in there, and they're trusting him, and he's been playing excellent so far. So he's a major find for them both from the full back point of view, but also freeing up Rodgers. But No, I'd have given Lennon the benefit of the doubt with the goal anyway in the out game.
I said Kieran Lennon, sorry, it's Craig Lennon. Rory, I'm a little bit harsher. I thought perhaps if you miscontrol it and drop the ball, should your next action not be a solo instead of a hop? Just to avoid, like, because another referee might have blown you, whether he's okay or not. Just it's a bit risky.
But you could probably even allow a controlling hop, which I think does a controlling hop allow you even a full hop afterwards? I remember a referee once telling me that you could actually control hop the ball. Like if it's a control, like a basketball, you could literally do that from one end of the field to the next.
Yeah,
and,
tricky with an O'Neill's on
perfectly
grass.
legal, actually, perfectly legal to do that. It's just a funny one. You'd have to. What it does do though, I think there's two aspects to it. I think it probably shows, on one level, the 2 points that I think Cork will feel extremely sore about dropping to Meath on the first day, which I think, had they not, would be right in the mix now potentially for promotion, even though, look, I don't think they're at Derry's level. No, they have that match at home and you wouldn't know. But and it just blows wide open, the potential for anybody now to get relegated. It was arguably the result of the weekend. That maybe Wicklow beating Laois, I don't know. I think it was a real stand up and take notice type result, because a massive crowd in Navan, which is another big feature this weekend just gone, particularly in football. Incredible crowd, and obviously a derby feel to the whole thing. And Mikey Hart, the Oracle once again,
Yeah, I just quick. We won't have time really for Division 4 today, but quickly, I was actually writing a caption or a headline or something yesterday, and I was saying Wicklow's shock win over Laois. And I said, hang on, didn't Wicklow score 5 goals against Laois in the championship last year and beat them by 6? They did. So shock's a little bit, would be a little bit harsh, but it was a good win, all right.
Away from home, and Laois, the farm team. I think it was an upset.
An upset, but shock is a bit much. I must do justice to my adopted county here and say that they have Laois's number at the moment. We won't leave Division 2, Roy, without a mention of the 6-goal heroes. Those boo boys down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh had very little to be booing about yesterday anyway, did they? 6-18 to 12 points.
Look,
what's going on with Limerick?
Well, like, look, I think Limerick are probably overachieved by gaining promotion into Division 2, and they've a fair bit of work to do, a change in management as well. There's always new style, new system, and a very, very competitive Division 2. And look, I suppose they were a bit out of their depth yesterday. I think from Cork's perspective, I think it's a positive, because I think scoring average could be massive. If teams are level on, if more than 2, 3, if 3
you can get into Sam Maguire on points difference,
like Cork's scoring average is good, and I think that's probably the two big things from Cork's perspective yesterday. Conor Corbett scoring a couple of goals. He's the great white hope, I suppose, in a forward sense, in that, like, if he can show the kind of form that we saw from him at underage level and bring that to senior, stay injury free, get a good consistent run, I think we've a real star in the making. And just racking up a good big score, because I think
6 from play for Chris Oak-Jones,
yeah, but like, he'll have stiffer tests. I think Corbett coming on to still get to, I think it'd be good for his confidence. And then, look, you're hoping then, in that sense, if you could get Cathal O'Mahony back, you'd have a really good sextet of forwards that you wouldn't be so dependent on Hurley and Sherlock. But they'll have it all to do up in Ennis next weekend. I'm telling you now, they'll have it all to do.
Yeah, until the last 5 minutes, probably. Eamonn, it's the hope that'll kill him. Go on, tell us over there in Kerry, you're looking east and you're a bit worried.
As soon as Kerry fellas start talking up Cork, everyone switches off Mikey. So,
it'll be more for me than the listeners. That's all.
I was impressed with them last weekend against Dublin, and there's definite, again, you're looking for progress and you're looking for the graph in the right direction, and it definitely is. And Conor Corbett very much is the great white hope, but I've since seeing him at under 20 level, he's going to be the real deal, all right. And even the way he carved out Hurley's last second chance against the Dubs, the last day, scored 2 goals. Chris Jones played very well against the Dubs, but he didn't kind of impact in the scoreboard. But to get 6 points yesterday would be great for his confidence as well. So, and I've mentioned it before. Look, the Kevin Welch factor is huge as well, especially the further on it goes. The more time he has with the team and the deeper into the season they go, his experience will become more and more important. So, we're keeping a close eye on them, all right, Mikey, don't worry.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, we will move on to Division 1, and I think we have to start with Mayo again. It's not, it's not like we always want to talk about Mayo, but they're making themselves very hard to ignore at the moment. Eamonn, last week Rory made a kind of a lovelorn attempt to remove Lee Keegan from RTÉ's employ for some reason and get him back in a Mayo jersey, and in response, Lee kind of dismissed Rory. Rory thinks he's just delayed him, but he's kind of dismissed him. But in response on the field, Enda Hessian put in a goal-scoring performance from fullback.
It was like Gooch.
Exactly. And it wasn't just a goal, Eamonn. It was a dream goal. It was a goal any inside forward. We're talking about Shane McGuigan and Benny Heron, etc. Any of them did this, they'd be talking about it for years. It was a phenomenal goal.
Yeah, it was a brilliant goal. And obviously he had a huge hand in the first goal as well, Nathan O'Shea's goal. So he had a great game, and he played well against Kerry the previous week as well. He forced the turnover from the kick out for who got that goal. James Carr got the goal the previous week. So he's having a great season in the Hessian. I saw him first of all in the second half of that All-Ireland semi-final win over Dublin, and he probably stalled a small bit last year, but he's really driving it on this year. But his finish was incredible, and all I was wondering afterwards was it instinctive, or is it something that he actually practices, that he has this dummy solo? But Mark Shea always had a great dummy solo that he did practice a good bit, but it looked to be an instinctive finish. But it was brilliant goal, and Mayo are going really well. And look, I hear people saying, how's Kevin McStay going to keep a lid on it, and how's he going to calm expectations? Well, he can't, and he won't be able to. It's as simple as that. Expectations are going to be huge in Mayo because of the way they're going. But from their perspective inside in the group, all they can do is keep doing what they're doing. They're playing great stuff. They're improving. They're still making plenty of mistakes and everything else. But in terms of their structure, personnel, fitness, attitude, work rate, all of the things that you'd be looking for as a manager, as a management team, are there at the moment. They're getting the results. So there's a long way to go, but they really do. They remind me of the way Kerry were this time last year. They were just they were in a great place, and they were getting the job done. Great energy around them. And they're as always, they're a compulsive watch, but they look good.
I like this. You say Mark O'Shea had a dummy solo that he practiced, and now we see Enda Hessian. Is this like a dark secret of cornerbacks? I can imagine Francie Bellew above a train and practicing his dummy solo.
That's a stretch now, Mikey.
With someone's head. No offense, Francie, please. I love you. Please don't hurt me. Love Francie Bellew. Anyway, Mayo, Rory, now all we're thinking of is that Eamonn O'Shea is going to deploy the parachutes at any moment. Stop winning games. I don't want to make it to a league final. And are we going to see the Mayo intermediate team come out now in the next couple of weeks to ensure that happens?
Oh, it's going to be very interesting to see how the final few games play out in this league, and whether or not managers do pull the handbrake up. And I do hear people say, well, how do you do that? And I've heard other people mention, oh, sure, look, we went into every game we just played, but like the managers can do it. You can do it through your team selection. You can do it through there's just ways and means that you can
run up Croke Patrick on Thursday night. There's a way to do it.
Yeah, and you can shift emphasis very, very quickly. I'd like to ask Eamonn, right, bit of a curveball. If there was one team in Ireland aside from Kerry that you could take right now to manage, who would it be? Right now.
Cork, I suppose.
They get us relegated back down to Division 3.
Well, I think, look, you if you were being clever about it, you'd be looking at the top of the table. You'd be saying Mayo, sure, of course, would be great to be involved with at the moment. Derry would be absolutely a great team to be involved with at the moment. any of the teams with momentum and going well. But
Wexford had a good win over Waterford at the weekend, Eamonn. There's plenty of room for improvement. You could do it.
Yeah. I'll stick with Mayo, I think. But like the thing about pulling the handbrake, I wrote a small bit about that in the Examiner on Saturday. I don't know about it. I
really?
think even if you're involved in a club team, a school team, if you have momentum and you're going well, it's one of the hardest things in sport to get. And you don't want to mess with that.
Yeah.
Like when you're going in the right direction, you want to try winning. Like I put out the counter argument of, are you as well have to go and try and win the league and go absolutely pedal to the metal, then take the provincial championship as it comes. If you happen to stay going as you are, great, and you end up winning it, brilliant. But if you don't, you'll end up with 3 or 4 weeks off in the lead into the group stages. And you actually have a bit of a gap to deload, gather yourself and go again. And give players a bit of a break, even psychologically, from getting up for games every single week. And I wonder, the only downside to that argument is you are going to be seed 3 in the group stages because 1 and 2 is going to be taken up with the provincial finalists. But I think that if you've won the league, you're going really well and you're happy where you're at, you have a couple of weeks to freshen up and gather yourselves. I think you're going to come into the group stages full of confidence anyway, and you won't mind who you're taking on or what seed you are. So I just wonder, is that argument there as well? Like to win
very much, it is.
To win national silverware and to win, especially in any of the divisions, because they're all so even, but to win the Division 1 National League, it's not to be sniffed at.
I would have thought that was the kind of a logical way of thinking as well. But in fairness to Kevin McStay, as soon as he got the job, he said number one priority, it was provincial. Like he was aiming at the Connacht Championship. And Kevin, having sat here, having Rory explain championship structures to him for a couple of years, knew well what the structure was, and he still said he was going for it. We better push out. Just a word in Tyrone. Because I see a few people at Edwin McGrath, local journalist up in Mayo, he said for the second week running, we can't get carried away with ourselves in Mayo because for the second week running, the team we played against have been just abjectly poor to a point where with Kerry, at least you can say that was just an off week. They were training, Jack Connor was trying something new, whatever like that. But with Tyrone at this stage, you're getting to the point of wondering, Eamonn, if they're just stuck in a rut. You look at their scorers, in fairness, McCurry and Canavan did what they're supposed to do. They scored 7 points between them. After that, of the starting team, Frank Burns got 2 points and your goalkeeper gets 3. Like
Shane has 2 points in the league so far. Total.
They can't score, Eamonn. They just seem, I think it was Peter Canavan said here last week, that they're gone back to being a reactive team where they just try and soak up pressure and then get the ball, and there's no spark at the moment, is there?
No, that's the thing. There's no spark. And I think it's actually the scoring thing obviously is an issue for them, all right, at the moment. But I think the more alarming thing for them is their work rate and their, which is kind of central to the Tyrone identity, or at least it has been for the Bones of 20 years, where they really work very hard for each other. They harass, they chase back, they're good in breaking ball, they're good at disrupting the opposition, and, they're always very hard to play against. And then on top of that, when they have the ball, they have serious footballers. But at the moment, Diarmuid O'Connor's goal, I know it was at the end of the game and everything else, but that's the opposite of what you'd expect of Tyrone, that he was just able to go straight through the middle. A couple of fellas ran out of his way. The Tyrone backs went with them, whereas normally there'd be that collective nature where they'd all be going to the point of danger and trying to help each other and everything else. So I think Brian Dewar and Fergal Logan will be more worried about that. And then I do think that when you get that side of the game right, the scoring will come. And, Derek Canavan and McCurry are playing okay. Cathal McShane still hasn't got back to his confidence, just seems to be quite low at the moment. And, with a forward, a game or two, that can turn around. And I think the further on we go, we'll probably see more of the likes of Rory Canavan. So I think they'll be okay up top eventually. But for me, it's their lack of work rate really at the moment is a thing that from the outside looking in seems to be a bit of a change.
Better news for for their neighbours, Rory, Donegal, who got a point against Galway. Yet again, they didn't win in Letterkenny, but at least they didn't lose. And This is a very odd game. Again, I watched it all.
I found it a tedious watch, Mikey. I
Yeah,
really did.
Donegal 1-6 in the first half, and they didn't score until the 67th minute in the second half. And then they reeled off 3 points to almost win it. It would have been criminal. You're right. It was a tough enough watch, and I think for the second week in a row, Matthew Tierney was kind of the reason to watch this match. The guy, like, I watched that match with him, and then I watched Shane McGuigan for Derry, and you're kind of thinking these two lads they're just operating on a different plane to most at the moment. But Galway were if you watch it, Galway were very listless in the first half. They just seemed to let Donegal have the ball, and that suited Donegal, who have good long range scorers. It was a strange match, and then Donegal disappeared for the second half and came back in the last 5 minutes. But after the match, it was only a snapshot. It mightn't have meant a whole lot. I haven't seen quotes yet, but Padraic Joyce was kind of out in the field with a smile on his face, and his opposite number had a face like thunder. I think Donegal were definitely targeting 2 points here.
I found, as I said, like, it's okay to say sometimes that a match is a bad game. I didn't really think this was very good.
At least it was close. It was Derry Kildare after was worse, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably as much as you could say for it. It was two teams set up very similarly. It just lacks something. The obvious absence of was the star quality. They're missing for both teams, and maybe that was it. Maybe it was the early throw-in. Maybe it was the fact it was a lovely day in the Northwest. It normally isn't unusual this time of the year. Maybe it's two teams very tentative and unsure of their form and fortune at this time of the year. It just lacks something. And given the league position for both teams, I was surprised. Donegal's execution in the final third, dropping short, wrong options at times, stuff that you can't tidy up. Just disappointed really in the lack of adventure in both teams. It played out, I felt, with kind of the air of a challenge match at times. Instead of a game where the two teams are potentially scrapping for their lives. And I think they both got what they deserved in the end, which was a point each.
Yeah. Again, I don't think Padraic Joyce is, they're on 4 points now, another win maybe from their last couple of last 3 games, and they'll be safe enough. He didn't seem too perturbed, and after a tough match against Tyrone in awful conditions, maybe the challenge match feel would suit. Would that happen with you? Say, like, you, not like we were just talking about it earlier, taking the handbrake off. Perhaps it's not something you say or anything before the match, but you go out and it's how the match pans out. It pans out as not being the most intense affair ever. This is how that one kind of tended to play out, which I think Galway wouldn't have minded, but you got the sense Donegal really needed a 2-point win.
I suppose from Donegal's perspective, it was a home game, and they were just saying that if they had got the win, it would have put them in a good place. But they could easily have got nothing out of it at the end, because Paul Conroy is normally such a brilliant kicker. Yeah,
it was a tough one, that one.
You would have expected him nearly to kick it, but anyway, the Galway could have ended up with the 2 points. But I think, look, with Padraic Joyce, he's, from the point of view, again, he's thinking big picture, and he's thinking much further down the line. He wants to stay in Division 1. He's getting the likes of Peter Cook, Ian Burke, all those players back into it. Yeah. They're getting points on the board without Shane Welch, without Damien Comer at the moment. And Matthew Tierney is going to another level. He's flourishing in the fact that he has to be the man now while the lads are away. And when they come back into the mix, then he's progressed and he's gone further down the road, because geez, he was outstanding again yesterday for the second week in a row. Really, really good. So I think that's what would have been pleasing for Padraic Joyce, Mikey, that, it's another point closer to safety. He knows that they're going really well. I think they'll be still looking at the high balls in against them, though, that it's still an issue that's causing them difficulties, and it's something I imagine they're probably working on all the time, but they haven't sorted out yet. And if they're going to go a step further than they did last year, it's definitely something that they'll probably have to sort out.
Yeah. Well, answers on the postcard what the penalty was for. Marty suggested a throw ball last night. I got the impression
that was my thing.
I wasn't sure. I got the impression maybe David Coulter just looked at it and said, "This is a mess. He's probably been shoved into the goal. I'll give a penalty." But then when you watch it back, Rory, it did look like there may have been a throw ball. Whether it came before or after the whistle, though, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and in fairness, look, I think he's one of the best referees out there. Coldrick, he very rarely gets anything wrong. It was just one of those ones where you're kind of saying, I don't know. Like, it didn't look like a throw to me, but looked like he kind of pushed the ball out, but it's split-second decision. He's making these decisions in real time as well. So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, just a quick mention. We were nearly out of time. I'll just say Monaghan were always going to beat Roscommon. I think that was a very safe bet, a very impressive performance, and their forwards are purring. So that's just to mention that. And then just to say, Eamon, then on your own crowd, made to work very hard, which I suppose you would have expected. 12 points, definitely, as you said, not in the place Mayo are now, where Kerry were last year, as you said. But I'm guessing you're not overly concerned either. Jack O'Connor seems to be kind of he said at the outset, just stay in Division 1, I'll be happy enough. We're 2 months behind everybody else. And that seems to be a get out of jail card for pretty much everything at the moment, is it?
Big time. And look, I was a bit disappointed with the game, to be honest, Mikey. I was expecting a different type of game. I wasn't expecting it to be as tactical, and I wasn't expecting Armagh to be as defensive as they were. And look, that's their right. I just felt they could have offered a bit more on the ball, because Kerry were vulnerable as well after the previous weekend, and there was always going to be a response. But at the same time, I felt there was a chance for Armagh to go at Kerry. But yeah, Kerry would be delighted. And I actually found it funny afterwards, talking to some of the Armagh people. I thought that they might have been a bit disappointed in Armagh, and they were actually saying, look, we managed to keep David Clifford quiet, and we managed to kind of shut Kerry out at the back, so they were happy enough with it. But look, from Kerry's point of view, every weekend it's a big game, because Tyrone now next weekend up there is a huge game. Because if Tyrone were to beat Kerry, they're up level on points with Kerry on the 4 points, and they have it on the head-to-head. Whereas if Kerry win that game next weekend, they're in great shape really for the rest of the league. They could try and kick on and go towards the league final, or consolidate their position. But the main thing was the result on Saturday evening for Kerry, and they got that and 2 points on the board, and you move on.
Yeah, a little bit of drama at the end, Rory, but it was a little bit of a humdrum affair. And I think for the David Clifford groupies, it wasn't the match for them. He 4 points all from frees. Shocking performance, shocking.
Yeah, but sure. I mean, I think it'll probably be something that will become a potential weapon for Kerry. If people maybe perceive it as a weakness, in that they're double and triple teaming him at times. I mean, every time he was picking up the ball, it was hilarious. Like, there was like a platoon of Armagh lads chasing him. And I think that's something that Kerry, like, it'll be tricky to figure it out. But I think knowing Kerry, they will. If there's 3 or 4 lads chasing one guy, there must be lots of free people somewhere else, and I just felt at times that maybe Kerry didn't get enough bodies forward, that, like the lads that are loose, the lads that are free, the lads that are available, the heat that Clifford has drawn. I think that will be something that they could take advantage of further down the line. I think their attitude and aggression was impressive. There was none of the passivity that we saw last week in Castlebar. And yeah, I think it was Jason Foley had a blinder.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Armagh lived on scraps, maybe, especially in the first half. Kerry really good in possession, even though they didn't really, work the scoreboard as they normally do. But I think in terms of the attitude and the work rate and how much they got stuck in, and Ockambor, I thought was busy around the middle. I think there'd be loads in that. And it was the kind of game, I think Eamonn mentioned on commentary, that if you win, you'll take loads from, because it was just one of those ones that you had to eke out. And I think Kerry did that. And I think it's a really good portent of things to come for them.
We're just finished now. Eamon, that using Clifford as a decoy, I think that wasn't something you tried with Fossa much this year, was it? Really?
No, give him the ball and let him at it. No, but there was one of the early scores. Rory's right, that one of the early scores, Darragh Roach point, the platoon of bodies did go towards David, and he moved it away in quick hands. They shifted it from one side to the opposite, and Darragh Roach kicked a great point. So it absolutely will be something that, if he's clever enough, and Jack is clever enough, that if he's getting a lot of attention, he'll move the ball away from there then and let the other lads at it. So it's something to look at. But no, it wasn't a tactic. We looked at too much with Fossa at all, Mikey.
Shocking that. Okay, I'll let you get back to your whiteboard of tactics there now, Eamonn. You can work on that one, and we'll chat to you again soon. We'll be back in a moment with Shane McGrath to discuss hurling. Thank you.
He hits it, it's over the bar! Oh, holy Moses!
Well, Shane, how are you getting on?
Very good, Mikey. Very good, Rory. Monday morning. We're all in great form. So
bad weekend for the Leinster team, Shane.
No comment, Rory. No comment.
We're going at it from the get go, are we, Rory? Right.
Sure. No. I'm only having a laugh.
No, alas, we do have to talk about it. Look, I'll say right now, I do try to watch everything. I did not watch the highlights of Clare 625, Wexford 118. I haven't heard from my father yet, who would usually send me a text saying, we're shite, we're at nothing this year. I don't think he didn't even have the heart to do that. And my 81-year-old mother went to the match with my 7-year-old nephew. I don't know what happened to the two of them. I hope they're alive. I hope they're okay. A bad day. Another person who was in Wexford Park was Shane McGrath, probably with a big shit-eating grin on his monster face, laughing. Shane, so you said Wexford came out to thunderstruck, and that was the high point. I think that they may possibly have been struck by lightning or something as they came out of the dressing room. In your expert opinion, what the hell happened?
What happened was, I sum it up quickly. No, I genuinely wasn't going down hoping, what happened yesterday.
I know, I'm only messing with you.
No. I'll tell you why. What about a very good friend of mine is the Wexford manager. We lived together in college, and we're in the same line of work there with the Department of Education as principals of primary school. So look, I really did feel for him yesterday. I felt like that it wasn't all on the management yesterday, and that's not just because I know Dara so well. I just felt there was zero effort. Like, there was no, regardless of who you have or who you don't have in life or in sport or anything, like if you don't try, like, what hope have you? And I just felt that yesterday there was no effort there really from a lot of the Wexford guys. And Dara was very honest in his interview after the game. He said, look, for some of these guys, newer guys, come in and they were trying to put up their hand, and yesterday was their chance, and he said that might be their chance gone. And I suppose that's the nature of inter-county stuff. And I thought it was a very honest thing to say, because let's be honest, lads, that's the way it is at top level. If you're a kind of a newer fish and you're coming in, you want to stake a claim. And look, I was just going through the Wexford team, Mikey, from when you bet Kilkenny last year, which would have been like your performance of the year last year, in my opinion. So you're missing 9 off that team, right? Shane, D. O'Keefe, Rory O'Connor, Matt Hanlon, Mark Fannin, Simon Donoghue, Liam Ryan, Paddy Foley, Kevin Foley. Okay?
Simon Donoghue was playing yesterday, but I'll take it.
Sorry. I'll scratch that one. So you're missing a large chunk of it, okay?
Yeah.
Regardless of that, the lads that were there, they just didn't put it in. And we were there, and it was just from the crowd and everything. They were so disappointed with the team, I mean, some people would blame management, some people would blame players. I put it to you like this, right? For the whole game yesterday, the Wexford half-back line scored more points from play than nearly all the Wexford forward line did combined. So the Wexford half-back line scored 3 points from play yesterday. And the Wexford forward line as a whole unit, they scored 4 points from play. And they were like, a couple of those points were like finishing up the game.
That happened last year on a number of occasions. Well, I remember noting it. It's not good when your half back line is yours and
Jack
chief.
O'Connor didn't score from play yesterday, but he spent most of the game around half back line on David Fitzgerald. So that's maybe something they're looking to down the road. But I mean, the scoring threat Jack O'Connor is. Look, that was Wexford. They were missing a lot of bodies. They'll have a lot of soul searching to do. I think their next game is Cork now. And in Limerick, and
Cork and Limerick away to finish, nice and handy.
Their next home game is until April 29th against Antrim. They'll have played Galway and Salt Hill by then. So look, it's a tricky few games now coming up. Really, it is for the Wexford. I think what Dara and the Wexford lads learned yesterday is they just don't have that depth in their panel that the top teams have. They just don't have it. Like, they can't afford to be missing 7, 8 guys. And that was very evident yesterday. So look, that's Wexford. They'll have a lot of soul search to do, and they need the bodies back. If I just talk about Clare and how efficient they were, right, lads? Their first 15 shots they took at the goal. 15 scores. They scored 3-12 with their first 15 shots. Like, I mean, regardless of who you're playing, that's some efficiency. Like, they were a wounded animal coming down there now yesterday as well after what happened against Limerick in the Gaelic grounds. They had a much, much stronger team on paper. If I compare their team to the their performance of the year last year was the Munster final. They were only down four that team. And one of them was their goalkeeper, who was replaced by Eamonn Foodie. So Ava Quilligan was in goals last month's final. Eamonn Foodie was in goals yesterday. He was brilliant. He made a brilliant save. His puck-outs were good. He was hitting space. He scored a point. So you could say 3 outfield players. But the massive thing for Clare this year, lads, is Aidan McCarthy's back. He scored 110 yesterday. He's in serious form. They have a bit of a depth in their panel now, and they're a much stronger unit than last year. Shane O'Donnell was there, wasn't talked out. David McInerney has to come back. I think Brian Lohan is very, very happy after yesterday. And what an ideal game for John Conlon and Tony Kelly to come back in. Find your feet. They had time, they had space, get back up to the level. The next day against Galway will be a much tougher test for them, but a lovely game to come back in for Conlon and Tony Kelly. But they were at their ease, lads. They were at their ease. And as I said, what I found very interesting actually was Clare had a massive breeze in the first half, lads. Peter Duggan, we all know, scorer-in-chief, big target guy. They brought him way, way out the field. And as a result, then Wexford's call was, like, will we stick or twist? Like, will we leave him out there and he's probably going to shoot from distance and score, or will we go and mark him? They went and marked him, and it actually suited Clare grand, because what they could do then was pick off space in front of Ian Galvin, David Reedy and Ed McCarthy in there sometimes. So, kudos to the Clare lads for that. Like, either way, it was with the opposition that was there yesterday, it was probably going to work anyway. But an awful beating for the Wexford lads. Great, a win for the Clare lads, and a bit of confidence back up before they play Galway. So that's all I can see about it, Mikey.
Well, you see, Rory, it hasn't worked out for us well the last couple of years. We beat Clare in the league and then lose to an All-Ireland quarter final or something. So we all know what's going to happen now. Wexford will gain revenge come the summer. That's how it works, isn't it?
No, I think that was the mother and father of Haydn's yesterday. That can be hard to recover from. Admittedly, as Shane has correctly pointed out, you are missing, three quarters of your starting team. So they might necessarily have the emotional or the baggage and the scars that beating will have inflicted yesterday. And you'd hope they're able to recover. I think, as Shane said, like, Dar's a good, honest fella, and I'd say this will really rankle with them. But it's going to be they're going to have to pick themselves up. They have no choice, really. It was a shocking display. I didn't see it, I only saw the highlights obviously last night, but it was a shocking display. I mean, 6 goals, is it?
Yeah. Shane, you know Dara, he's a buddy of yours. How do you think he is going to approach this now? Because Rory said this could be kind of not season ending, not to be dramatic, obviously, but like this could knock back fringe players to the point where, as you say, they never wear purple and gold again, and it could also just kind of knock the confidence of the group entirely ahead of 2 really tricky away fixtures to finish up the league, and they want to go into championship with some bit of momentum. So he's going to have to do something, isn't he?
Oh, he is, and it'll be whether they get back training tomorrow night, and maybe did the weekend off, so they might have a big sit down and have a chat about it. But they'll have a lot of the senior guys there to come back as well. But I mean, it is like, regardless who you have or you don't have, to just not try, like, or not put in the effort it was the killing thing for me being there yesterday, and for the Wexford people around me. Like Mikey, Wexford fans they're some of the best fans in the country. Brilliant. They really are, through thick and thin, like. And there was a big crowd from there yesterday in the cover standing across the way from us, and they were just so deflated going away yesterday that they want to see all their best players out in the field. And like, I think if the big learning for the Wexford manager was, they have to have their best players out in the field. They can't not anymore now. Like, realistically, like, go to play Cork and go to play Limerick, and then your first round of the championship is above in Salt Hill against Galway. Like, if you don't have 90 to 95% of what you visualize as your top 15 championship 15, they are going to struggle. I think that was a big learning for them yesterday. But the work rate and everything was poor, lads. Oh God, it was like, at one stage, your man was coming out with the ball, he stopped, he turned back, there was several times happened with the Wexford backs. They looked up, there was there was no movement, and like Tony Kelly turned him over at one stage. He was coasting on his own. He nearly could have stopped, looked, checked whereabouts in the sliotar the chip was, and then strike the pass over to David Reedy into his hand. That's the kind of time and space they have. So that cannot be allowed. Lads, that can't be allowed at junior C level. in Tipperary, let alone at inter-county level, for lads to get that much time space. That's just not trying. That's all that is. So look, there'll be a huge effort, but they really, really do need the lads back. And Dara will lay it on the line to them. Sure, and Niall Corcoran there as well. You know, Willie Cleary is involved there as well with him, and I think Neil O'Loughlin's the other guy. And like they'll have to ask some serious questions of him and put it back on him now. Like, I think it's a great opportunity for the management now to put it back on the players next day and say, look, we're trying everything. We're trying to do everything so right here. We're trying to make everything right. This really is on you the next day of performance now. Like, let's see how much you want to play for Wexford, regardless of who they have or don't have. And look at Westmeath did down in Cork. Like, in fairness, a totally experimental Cork side, but at least Rory, they went down and they tried. Like, and they worked hard.
They made it reasonably competitive, to be fair.
Yeah.
And that's all you can ask any team, really.
All you can ask for any Leinster team, at least, lads.
You're not drawing Shane in there.
No, he's been very careful, isn't he? Yeah, Jesus. Okay, we'll move on to the quasi Leinster team that is Galway, and they didn't ship 6 goals, Shane, but they weren't really at the races here either. From watching a bit of it, then listening to commentary on Radio 1 on the way home, it was just like it was a 5-point win for Limerick, but you know, even though I think Galway got within 2 towards the end, I think Limerick were relatively comfortable and had the chance to kind of withdraw a couple of their big guns. And you can see John Kiley and Henry Shefflin on the sideline, neither of them looking terribly wound up about the whole affair. It's one of those league games where I don't think this one was a great advertisement for the league particularly.
No, I think it's worrying for the rest of us lads that Limerick have now hammered Clare by 6 points, and I think in a way maybe they've kind of hammered Galway by 5 points, and people don't realise it. Like, you know, that these matches are a lot closer on the scoreboard than what they are in open play in the field. That's my opinion on it. Like, I think if Limerick if they were in standby mode this time last year, you know, that battery is more and more charged the whole time. It's strong there last year, you know, or strong there yesterday, 9 or 10 guys out of the All-Ireland 15 there yesterday. So, you know, they're in a good place as well with injuries. But the difference with them is, and everybody else is, if one of those guys can't make it, we'll throw in one of these unbelievable young lads, like, and they'll just perform anyway, like, e.g. Shane O'Brien, like. You know, I mean, Shane O'Brien outside All-Ireland colleges and what he did for his club Kilmallock last year, to a wider world of Galway people, you know, he might be a kind of an unknown, like. He pops up there yesterday and he scores 2 points, looks at his ease, snapping ball over in the air. You know, they start Will O'Donoghue yesterday and they say to Will, right, your shift is done after 60 minutes. Right, Adam English, you were excellent against Clare. Go in there now midfield and let's see what you have for 10 or 12 minutes. Like. And it's the likes of these guys, you know. We haven't even seen Cathal O'Neill yet because he's injured. You know, he's a guy that is, when he does come back, he's going to push on someone else as well. So that's the difference between Limerick and everyone else, lads. Yeah. If someone is missing for Limerick, someone else is coming in to do as good a job, if not better.
Yeah,
and they want to
Declan Hannon yesterday.
Dan Morrissey at centre back was
Dan
interesting.
Morrissey was outstanding at centre back.
Like, lads, you know, I take Colin Coughlin there. Like, he's flying as well, you know, but just can't seem to get in there at the minute because of all the competition across the half back line. The best hurler, their hurler of the year last year hasn't, you know, even really trained much yet. Really. Yeah. So I just think that's the difference between them and everyone else, like, you know. And like Keane Lynch is finding his form now again. You know, he had 3 points yesterday, involved in everything. The boys highlighted Barry Nash last night. His first match back there as well. They're just an awesome unit, lads. Tom Morrissey's tipping over 8 points, you know, 5 from play. He can take over the frees if they need be. You know, everybody's talking about, and John Kiley was asked about it again yesterday, and in fairness, he's given the same answer all the time about Aaron Gillane. He said it's an internal issue, they're dealing with it internally. Do I feel we'll see Aaron Gillane before the year's out? I honestly do feel we will see Aaron Gillane before the year's out. But if we don't see Aaron Gillane, Tom Morrissey can be your free taker. You could have Cathal O'Neill when he comes back, could be your free taker.
Dermot Burns takes frees, you know.
Micheál Houlihan takes frees. Like, if it's a free taker you're looking for, because and they're not, but it's what Aaron Gillane offers you, the brilliance that he offers you, what he did in All-Ireland semi-final last year, you know, and on and so on and so forth. So I just think their competition is unbelievable. I think maybe the biggest test that they'll have before the championship could be an A versus B game, and that's with all due respect to everyone else. That's just where they're at right now. I just think, you know, Galway, albeit they are missing a good few now as well. But I tell you, look, isn't it a big eye opener, lads, for a young lad coming in And I'm going to use Donal O'Shea as an example now, okay? Donal O'Shea was taken off at half time yesterday. He was playing the half forward line for Galway, or he was down to playing the half forward line. And like, I think if you really want to know where you're at in inter-county level and you're coming into it and you think you're good enough, I think when you pitch yourself against the very, very best, and for me personally, when I was kind of starting out, it was Kilkenny. Like, how, like, if I play well here now and here that day, right, when are we playing Kilkenny in the league? And if you played fairly well against Kilkenny, you knew I actually have a chance of being a good player here. And I think now, lads, if you want to know where you're at, like, and if league or not, if you have a really good performance against Limerick, I think you know that I'm on the right path. But again, it was a big learning for a lot of the Galway lads there yesterday. 5 points, Mikey. I think Limerick were by far the dominant force.
They were. Rory, it would be remiss of us not to mention it, and this isn't bashing referees because, as the lads highlighted on the show last night, I don't think it was seen. So it'll be interesting to see whether Kyle Hayes picks up a retrospective punishment for this, because he was already on a yellow, so he would definitely have been sent off. But it's just a question whether it was a second yellow or a straight red, and I think it was a straight red, was it?
It was a straight red. I mean, like Kyle Hayes. Man, if there was a transfer market, I mean, who would I pick? Would I take Garrett Hegarty or Kyle Hayes? It's such a toss-up. I mean, he's such an outstanding player.
You can't have any extra players. We need all of them that we have. All right,
mixed the sublime with the substandard. Let's be honest, and he should have been sent off, and may still be in trouble for it. Not that it'll matter at this time.
Rory, sorry, you know you're a good man for the rules. Joe, because he was spoken to yesterday. No, and like it spoke to, that's not say dealing with it in inverted commas. No.
Is they can still because I don't think, to be fair to Sean Stack, I don't think he saw it, and I don't think the linesman saw it either. You know, so I think he'll probably get a dip for it. I would imagine. Will only be one match, but it was quite dangerous. Now, having said that, he got a flake across the legs, which actually it was his reaction to that. But you just can't do that. You know, you cannot. A strike with a hurley to the head in any way, shape, or form is a straight red card, and he will definitely get a ban. One thing I would say as well, I thought Tom Monaghan got off with a yellow for one on Cian Lynch, not that dissimilar at the same time, but like the 3 points that Kyle Hayes got in the first 16 minutes, I mean, all top drawer. Like, I think the thing for me with Limerick is, if you get a chance, even a half chance or a sniff of a goal, you have to score. You have to get goals against them. And they won't give you that many chances. They might give you one or maybe a half one, but you have to take it. Because it was double scores by half time and you couldn't really see a way back for Galway.
Conor Cooney had that chance. It wasn't much of a chance, in fairness. It was 25 yards out against Nicky Quaid. Is not the best goal much of a chance.
Like, yeah. The positives, though, I would say the positives for Galway, they conceded no goal after conceding 4 against Cork, and they were tidy enough in that department. They got it back to within 2 points, as you said, with 3 minutes to go, and they played with a fair degree of battle, and fight, and never gave it up. But Limerick never really felt like they were going to lose the game at any stage.
Do you think Galway's long-term plan, lads, is try and get to that level where they were at with the All-Ireland semi-final and just try and match them man for man, rather than yesterday allowing a creator, a Pirlo type player in Barry Nash time on the ball? That, you know, the boys spoke about last night's Sunday game as well, but like, I'm just saying, they went at it last year. Clare went at it last year in the Munster final, albeit they were wrecked for the next maybe a couple of rounds of games after it. But is like, when you're playing Limerick and you're trying to beat the championship time and knockout games, do you have to just throw everything at it and just be of the mindset that if we lose, we lose, but let's lose by really going at them rather than standing back and saying, sure, we'll flood the back here. Because that hasn't worked like for 4 or 5 years now, because the boys are able to pick out that little pocket of space to your left or right. I think teams now have to decide, let's risk it and let's just go for it, like the risk and reward thing, and let's go man and them. And if there is space, sure, we'll trust that the lads in there will do the job, like, and at least go down swinging, as we say, because I think Galway would give one of the best performances last year in the All-Ireland semi-final when Fintan Burke just went at it, like. And the rest of them went at it, and there was a trust there to say, I trust that you're going to win your 50-50 battle. And they nearly bet them, and then Limerick unloaded their bench, and they won the game. Whereas maybe that's what Henry's looking for this year. If it does get that tight, that he can turn around in Croke Park and see 3 or 4 lads that he trusts, like he genuinely trusts, will do it. Maybe he didn't have them last year. And again, we go back to Limerick's depth in panel. But I'm just saying, I just think now, if we're getting that now, is how are we going to take them on? Right, they're brilliant in every factor of the field. They're physical, they can hurl, they can spread the ball. If we leave space, they'll find it. So will we try just go at it like Cork did down in the second half? I just feel maybe that's what teams are going to have to do. And is it a risky thing? Of course it is, because look, they could have 2 or 3 goals scored there if you leave the space, but has to be
they're not scoring goals though, Shane. That's the only thing they can. But they don't seem to be bothered.
They're
about
not
that.
trying, Rory.
They're meeting their, like, what is it like? I think they're like they seem to have this target of kind of 30 pints, like.
Yeah.
And most games, lads, unless you're bagging 1 or 2, 3 goals, you won't match them for 30 pints, like, no way.
No, they know what they need to do, and it's just, if you can score a point from 80 yards, why try working up the field for a low percentage goal chance, which is what they're doing. We'll move on to another Leinster defeat. Match you were at, Rory. Dublin. I kind of suspected. Yes, I suspected Dublin would go down swinging, which is all we can ask of our Leinster brethren at the moment. 5 points. They really made it uncomfortable. But as the lads highlighted last night, there's a Dublin reliance on Donald Burke that's kind of terrifying. But I would say one bright spot: this full forward Considine, who not only scored 3 points, but on several occasions made a complete Mickey of his marker with like little flicks and stuff. He looks like a exciting player.
Was taken off though. That's the only thing I would say. And he did fade a little bit. I think Tipperary obviously were trying out a few different things. They had what's centre forward's name? Is it Gerard O'Connor?
Gerard O'Connor.
Gerard O'Connor.
Yeah.
I was interested to see how he'd get on, because he's a big unit, very similar in stature to the kind of Kyle Hayes, Garrod Hegarty. But I'll tell you, the lads highlighted. Did you see this game, Shane, or were you there, or were you at it?
No, I didn't see it. No,
so the lads highlighted Donald Burke last night. But I'll tell you now, who I thought was actually the best player on the pitch, for me anyway, was Conor Burke at centre back for Dublin. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. I think he's a real find. Not a young lad by any means. I haven't really seen him pop up too much on the Dublin scene over the last number of years. And as we know, I be at pains to repeatedly point out the importance of centre back on a team, and over, I'd say, all of maybe 5-6 inches. And I thought he gave as good as he got. He was absolutely top class. A massive find for them. And the other thing that struck me about their team selection, the Dublin hurling team for the last number of years, or certainly going back even probably to Dalo's time, would have been dominated by the likes of Kilmacuds, Coolas, Ballantyre, St. John's, and Southside clubs in general. There was only one Coola lad in the entire 26, and these are a double All-Ireland club winning team now from very, very recent times, which was the goalkeeper. And that's all they had on the entire panel. And more than half the starting 15 were Northsiders. Now, what's the significance of that? Well, I'm going to be careful how I word this now here, but I think Northsiders are a little more streetwise, okay? let's put it like that, as maybe that's as diplomatic as I can find. And I think that's what Micheál Donoghue has gone after. I mean, I think there were players from clubs like places like Nave Barrogue and Erin's Isle. There was a Fingalians lad on the bench. He's had a few chances, didn't really, maybe didn't take it, their power, but there's still more to come from him. And I think he's gone for a very different type of player and a different type of identity. And I think, from my point of view, I was very impressed with them on Saturday night. I think Tipperary, kind of went into experimental mode by and large. They made a lot of different changes. But I think Dublin were the story. I mean, they made this game competitive from the off. They conceded 2 goals, which I think were ultimately the difference. But it was a very, very good game. And in many ways, maybe it was, from the hurling I saw, the best game of the weekend. And
Jesus, that wouldn't be hard.
That's true. That is a good point.
Shane, the lads highlighted the attack last night, but the Tipperary defence, it was tested, which is obviously, no harm. Hogan was kind of it's Barry, isn't it, these days? Barry was he was he had a couple of decent saves to make. Big, as Rory said, big strong kind of Dublin team, kind of tested Tipperary defence. Do you think the forwards, there was definitely experimentation? Do you think that's close to the kind of how close are we to the first choice starting championship defence there with Tipp last on Saturday night?
Yeah, you're maybe not far off it. Like, I mean, you say you Brian O'Mara is definitely going to feature. He's just hurling over his skin at the moment, and I think he proves what a loss he was to Tipperary last year.
Didn't have Mike Breen full back on Saturday night was that the first time
I'd
that
say that's it. Like, and they're just they're trying out. I suppose they're trying Brian O'Mara if Mikey Breen wasn't out or something, like who is our cover for full back, and Mikey has done very well now full back for me. I think he's ticked a lot of boxes. Brian O'Mara was outstanding there the other night. Johnny Ryan and corner back there, lads. He's from Arravale Rovers. It'd be Tipp Town. Again, it would be maybe an unknown outside of Tipperary, but what he would play a lot of his club hurling out around the middle of the field, very comfortable on the ball, and I think maybe Tipp are looking for a kind of a Barry Nash type player there to get him on the ball and maybe to have that quality of delivery that he has. Say Mikey Breen, Ronan Maher at 6. I'd love to see Ronan at 7. I think he's just one of the most natural strikers of the ball that there is in the game, and if you could get him at 7, it might allow him that Kyle Hayes role to push up the field a little bit more and pick off those 2 or 3 points, because he has it in the locker, lads. This guy is some strike of a ball. How close are we? Like, I mean, Tipp still have 8-9 lads out injured. Kieran Connolly said it was announced the other day, Kieran Connolly's from Lockmore. He's not going to feature this year. He's a big loss. He had a great campaign with Joel. He had a great campaign with Lockmore Castleiney 2 years ago. So he's a loss. Bubbles has stepped away, or Bubbles is retired now as well, which that's fair enough. He wasn't involved. Early on in the year, then the likes of Gerard Brown get injured as well. So the injury list is long. So how close are we to the backs, the championship starting defence, Mikey? I mean, we still have to remember that Cathal Barrett is out with broken shoulder at the moment. So we're hoping that he's going to be back in time. He'll definitely do everything right to get himself back as well. Brian McGrath went off injured there yesterday as well. So it's just if you can keep all these guys on the field, there's an honesty and a work rate in Tipp there at the moment that all the supporters are just delighted to see. I can't comment too much on the game. I was listening to it on the radio on Tipp FM and just watching the highlights, but they're working ferociously hard. Alan Tynan is working ferociously hard for us. Mark Keogh is playing well. Shamey Kennedy's doing fine. He got taken off, but put in a good shift, 2 points again. And the spread of score is there. Donald Burke, obviously, what he did, lads, it's phenomenal stuff. And but what Jason is doing, I suppose, for us on the other side, 110 the other day, 115 against Kilkenny the last day. I just feel that this guy he's in a great place at the moment. He is our main man in the forwards at the moment. Try and get Shamey on for longer. Try and get John McGrath back from injury as well, and get him on the pitch for longer. Add it in with all those. What more can Tipp do, really? I suppose we're they've 3 wins from 3. Their next game is against Waterford, and their last game is against Antrim. So get a few more bodies back over the next couple of weeks. Go again against Waterford. That's all. I mean, lads, I'll be honest. Look, right, the hype and expectation in Tipp at the moment is for people who know what they're talking about is if Tipperary can be really competitive in Munster and get out of Munster. Honestly, no, I think a lot of people will be saying, we are making progress, we're going the right way. Now, I know the lads inside, they want success. Regardless of what you're doing, they're training ferociously hard, they'll want success. But, if they're really competitive in Munster, get out of Munster, I think everything else then, the shackles are off then. And it's there's no expectation on them because of the guys that have stepped away.
The shackles are off and you could run into a Leinster team in a quarter-final. Happy days.
Sure, look, there's no comment to that now, Rory. But look, that's it. That's where Tipp are at, I think, and I think they're going fine. 3 wins from 3. What more can they do? And they're hurling fine, and they're working fierce hard. And I I think they're in a nice place, Mikey.
Yeah. My prediction of a Tipperary league win is getting closer and closer.
I predicted Galway, and sure, Jesus, I suppose.
Well, the way it's shaping up, I mean, it would it'd be a fantastically novel league final if Cork and Tipp actually made it to. I mean, geez, I don't remember the last time those two counties contested a league final, so that'd be
you'd have no one really with a league medal either side. I think Shamey's the only person who has a league medal in our group, Rory. The last time we won was 2008. The last time he won it was 98. So I think for even for that, lads, another national medal.
Patrick Horgan not playing in 98? No,
he was so that day.
Sorry, I'm just taking jibes where I can't. This is just a quick shout out to Kilkenny, Leinster team who did win. Granted, they beat another Leinster team, but you can only beat what's put in front of you, lads. 34 points to 118, and Waterford beat Antrim in the other game.
And they had some of the belly and Owen Cody back there as well. That's you're getting some of the Ballyhale contingent
slowly,
blending them back in as well. So I think that's good for the Kilkenny.
I won't worry about Kilkenny; they'll be all right. Right, I'm off to drink some bleach or something. That's a joke. Don't drink bleach. No, we'll leave it at that though. Shane, thank you very much for not rubbing it in. You've shown a level of maturity that I appreciate early on a Monday morning.
I tell you, Mikey, look, we'll keep it now till later on in the year, and we'll save all the tweets, we'll save all the comments and stuff.
Don't ruin it now. Don't ruin it now with threats. So thank you, Shane. Thank you, Rory, and thank you to Eamonn earlier. And we'll catch you on Thursday for a preview of the football weekend. See you then. Bye.
Crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar.